Hey everyone. Oh, we see some people. Yes, awesome, awesome. Let's wait a couple more minutes. Let's hope that everybody is already here. But
just in case if someone is late.
yes.
Maybe someone can also in the form like send some expectations, what you're doing, kind of why you decided to join for us to have a clearer idea what you'd like to hear. If you have any comments, feel free to send them in chat.
Yeah, also if you want to share where you're located from, where you came from, why you came from, yes, please share it in the chat. So yes. Well, where is some people are still coming. Let's wait a couple more minutes. So nobody's willing to share anything yet. But yeah, during this webinar, we will have more or less more technical stuff. Not more technical, but more, how to say it, academic stuff. But we also will have some practical tasks for you. So when we will ask, don't be shy and please participate to make this this webinar more interactive for everybody.
Yeah, also, if you will have any questions during our webinar, feel free to send them in the chat and we will later answer them at the end.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, Richie from Zurich, Switzerland.
Hello.
Awesome. From UK. Awesome.
Well, I think we can start, and if someone late.
Yeah, and please make sure that you mute your audio. I will just check it, just to make sure that we don't interfere with each other. But if you want to mention something, then please write in the chat, and we can review it a bit later together. So let's start. I will share my screen. Yep. So as everybody knows, today's topic is 6 usability tests that can help you to increase your mobile conversions. And let's start with telling you actually who are we. So my name is Carolina. This is my colleague Olga. We represent Scandiweb's growth team. Olga can tell more deeply about our company.
Well, basically, we're a digital agency. We focus on e-commerce store development on different platforms, Magento, Shopify, anything we can do that. And we also, in the growth team, we try and help our clients grow. Basically, we tailor different custom optimization programs to each business. And we're also supported with more than 100 developers. So any our crazy idea about how make user experience better can be easily achieved with the help of developers that we have here. So we are quite a big team, and we do some cool stuff. So today we will talk about usability. And I guess if you joined, you're familiar with the term. What is usability? But just to make sure that we are on the same page here, we would like to define the term. So, next slide, please. As Jacob Nelson defined the usability, basically it is an attribute which shows how easy it is to use the system. The system can be like e-commerce store, it can be an app, anything. And the easier it is to use, the better the usability is. The usability consists of two main components. First one is knowledge. So basically, users with any technical background can use the system and they don't have to learn anything. And the second one is intuition. So the system is intuitive, and again, users do not have to think. Everything's intuitive, and they kind of go with the flow and can achieve the goal of the website or the page quite easily. So there's also a very important model that you should account for when you're talking about the usability, which is a Fogg behavior model. That was a model developed by Dr. Fogg, professor at Stanford University. And basically what this model tells is that the harder it is to do something, the more motivated you have to be to complete the task. So, for example, you will not want to complete a form of 30 fields just to get a pen. Like, that's ridiculous. But you might be willing to spend 1 hour filling out a survey if you have a chance at winning a free MacBook Pro. So basically, this is how motivation affects the ability to do something. And today we will focus on the x-axis, making sure that despite any motivation level that users at, will be able to complete the goal very easily.
Oh.
So how to measure the usability? Because it's a qualitative attribute. So how do you measure something that's qualitative by the definition? So you need to get the data. And to get the data, first you define the question that you'd like to answer. For example, you need to understand what is your question, what is your hypothesis for optimization. And when you have that question, you kind of choose the testing method that can help you identify, find an answer to that question. And about the testing methods, we will talk just a bit later. When you have your question and you chose the testing method, you start running the test. Basically, you collect the data, you analyze the data, and you drive conclusions from that data. And the last step is actually optimization of the system or of the website. When you implement the changes or you set up an A/B test to test your hypothesis even more deeply. So there are 6 usability methods, as you know from the title of our webinar. We will talk about heuristic evaluation, we will talk about 5-second test, we will talk about remote user testing, we will talk about moderated eye tracking testing, we will talk about session reporting, and we will also briefly cover heat map analysis.
So let's start with heuristic analysis.
Yeah, so basically heuristic analysis is a review of the website to identify problems that users might face. Usually it happens there's a cross strategist who performs a list of tasks on the website and compares the website to the CRO best practices. So there are 4 main components or steps to the heuristic evaluation. First, you have to evaluate the data that technologies, browsers that people use to know what you should test the website on. This data can be easily found in the analytics tool you use. Afterwards, you need to understand who are your users, because the shopping pattern, for example, for someone who's 60 years old and someone who's 21 who was kind of had a smartphone as long as they can remember themselves are quite different. Then you review the user flow, you see the pages where people are going, where they're dropping off, you pay a bit more attention to those pages and to those places on the website, and then you proceed with the evaluation itself. So basically, there are different frameworks and different methods of how you can conduct a heuristic evaluation. There are plenty of them online, but over the years, we kind of developed our own. And how we do, basically, we check the website for 4 main heuristics. First one is relevance, then it's help and information. We also evaluate persuasive and simple design, and we also check whether the website is functioning correctly. So to do so, we have a spreadsheet where each group has several points that we check, However, it's not like one-fits-all solution because each spreadsheet is adjusted based on the specifics of the business, on the product that the website sells. Because some of the points might not be relevant to one website, however, they might be like very important to another. So we kind of always adjust. Then each check receives a score from 1 to 3. So basically where 1 is an issue and 3 is that everything's good. And this helps us identify which group needs to be improved more. It also helps us to later prioritize which changes we should implement first and which fixes we should apply first. So now let's go a bit in depth into each group and what each group checks. Basically, relevance checks whether the website is relevant to the user and it matches users' expectations, because that's initially very important, so that user know that it's that they're looking at something that they need. So as an example, we tried to look for plus-size dresses on Google, and there were two websites that caught our eye, and we decided to check whether we will find something good there. So we checked Forever 21, and we landed on a page that had quite a lot of banners. There was no clear value proposition, and nothing was said about plus-size dresses. So then we checked another result on Google, which had pretty clear value proposition to get dressed, and the model is plus size, which is kind of more relatable to the person who is
looking for the specific
who's
product.
looking for the product. So if we scroll a bit down on the Forever 21, we can see that there are categories, many categories displayed, and again, none of which kind of says anything about plus size dresses. Whereas for Torrid, they were directly displaying the products, which was very relevant to us as we were looking for them. So basically, this kind of explains what the relevance is and how you evaluate whether your site is relevant. The next group that we focused on was help and information. And this evaluates whether users have any needed information accessible to them at any time. So we tried to find a website and purchase a protein powder, which is kind of an interesting product, because if you're just starting into fitness, you kind of need a lot of information on that. So one of the websites on mobile, they had a table with all the ingredients and everything that wasn't scrollable, so you cannot consume the information, you cannot find information. Where do you ask for help? How do you purchase and know that this is a product that will fit your needs? That's kind of hard to determine. Whereas another website, they had a clear table, that they had a section where you can ask questions about the product. They also had a live chat available, so it makes it easy to find the support if you need. And moreover, in the footer, they had their contacts listed, and helpful links were not hidden anywhere, so they were easily accessible. So this is kind of an example of how we evaluate help and information. On the website, of course, there are many more checks, but just to give you an idea of how it looks and works. The next section we check is whether design on the website is simple and persuasive. Basically, here we compare the website against CRO best practices, and we evaluate whether website has visual hierarchy, whether you use social proof, scarcity elements, and any other design principles that might be useful in such cases. So here we compared two skincare brands, product pages, and the first one, well, it looks a bit cluttered. It's black and white, like we're back in the era where smartphones were black and white. It's kind of hard to read because text is small. There are two buttons, but they do not really stand out. And 1/3 of the screen is taken by the menu, which appears randomly when you interact with the page. So the competitor of this website had a better product page in our opinion. It had a clear visual hierarchy. There was one call to action. The content was well structured and followed like logic. Information was very easy to consume, and generally the experience was much more pleasant while browsing this site. So moving to functionality and efficiency, this is a group where we check whether the website is working, which is usually very important. That is like a foundation of how to optimize your website. So you need to check your website speed, because if the website is very slow, that's going to be bad. People will be leaving. Website should be accessible on all devices and all browsers. A link should be clickable. Clickable elements should be clear, and basically all the functionalities you have on your website should work very well. So as an example for that, there's a case study that Google published on their services. Basically a big platform, Book My Show, which sell tickets in India. They switched their website to progressive app, and they saw that their website started loading by 3 seconds faster. And that in return brought them an increase in conversion by 80%, which sounds like super awesome. You just make your website faster and your conversions increase. So yeah, there's on the screen you can see like the demo that how fast the website was.
Well,
because,
after optimization.
Yeah, after switching to PWA. So moving forward, we'd like to share like 2 case studies just briefly to kind of back up why it's important to do heuristic evaluation. One of our clients is a big luxury fashion brand, and during heuristic evaluation, we found a bug that menu navigation was not working for Safari in-app browser, which had a share of around 12% of mobile traffic. So after we fixed that bug, we saw like enormous increase in KPIs. The conversion rate for the browser increased by 453%, and they had earned additional $21,000 in just 20 days, which is awesome. So
1K a day.
Yeah, 1K a day. So the tip here, and something for you to remember, is that don't forget to test your store or your website in an in-app browser, because it will help you ensure that the visitors that come from social media, they can access the website and they can use the website. So this is very important. Then the second case study, basically we have one client who is a home appliance retailer, and they have a possibility to reserve products to later pick them up in store. And during heuristic evaluation, we noticed that specifically on iPhones, you couldn't submit your personal information to complete the reservation. This issue was present only on iPhones. All the Android phones were working fine. So after fixing it, again, we saw very, very good increase in KPIs. Like increase in revenue was almost 150%. So what is like main thing you should remember from this is that you need to test your website on real devices, because that inspect mode in Chrome won't always tell you how it works on the real device. And you also should test it on different devices from different brands and in different browsers. The wider the scope is, the more chances that you will catch a possibility for optimizing your user experience.
Yes.
So now we would like to do a small like interactive session. We will ask you to look at the following slide and pay a bit attention to it. And afterwards, we will ask you a question. So, were you able to say what the page was about? you can submit it in your
In the chat.
if you have any, if anyone, yeah, books.
Anything else? Maybe what was the field? What is the service they provide? Something for authors, publishing on your own book. Anything else? What is good to read?
No idea. Well, okay, so someone got something, looks a bit environmentally friendly. That's a good comment, yeah.
Okay, yeah, and now we will have another slide. Let's try again. So again, can you tell us what was the messaging about? Flight surgeon bookings page. Anything else?
Any other ideas?
Flight delay claims. Nice. Flight surgeon compensation. Yeah.
Something yeah. Well, okay. So what you just participated in is called 5-second test. And basically, the 5-second test is a methodology when a page is shown on the screen for users for 5 seconds. As many researchers prove, it is enough for users to look at the page for 3 seconds to determine whether they'll explore it or they will leave, and whether the page kind of has the information they're looking for. So it's extremely important on mobile. Because on mobile you have less space than on desktop to kind of deliver the content. So with such a small space and small content availability, you have to make sure that your page speaks what it is about. And for that you can, and to test that, you can use 5-second test. Basically, when you need to do that, when you're testing the landing page, the value proposition, the copy, when you have high bounce rates or exit rates for your landing page. You can also do that when you want to enrich adjectives to use to describe your brand, because such tests usually provide very interesting view from potential customers on how they would describe the brand. And this can also give you an idea, like, I need to rethink my branding strategy, or like the visuals, because people perceive it completely differently from what was intended at the beginning. So, and of course, if you have like limited time, it's a very easy test to do. To run a successful 5-second test, first of all, you need to understand why you need to run the test. What are the outcomes you want to get? Not the specific answers, but kind of to what questions you want to get answers. Then you need to carefully decide the questions you will ask your respondents. Give first-hand questions to emotion-based questions, because it will be hard for users to kind of logically evaluate the page, but they will be able to say, like, we had an answer there, like, it looks environmentally friendly. Exactly. And maybe specific pages or businesses, I doubt, but maybe someone doesn't want to look environmentally friendly. So this is a great kind of great way to get that first emotion, first feeling that the design kind of translates. Yeah, if most questions are, I don't know, I don't remember, it was hard, then you need to evaluate the test, and you also kind of need to maybe rephrase the questions because they might have been too difficult to answer. We also always suggest to participate in such tests on your own a couple of times, because then you learn how to better communicate the questions to the participants. And then what's important, and is a great tip, you don't warn the people that they will participate in the 5-second test. Because if you tell them that they have to memorize the page they will see, oh, they will like try to focus, and then the data won't be so trustable, because yeah, they will pay a lot of attention.
Yeah, well, just data will be a little bit corrupted because users will make maybe pay too much attention and maybe think something out, just
just because you asked them.
Yes.
So
yes.
if they don't know, you will get more reliable data.
More emotional data, yeah.
Here are some examples of questions you might want to ask. For example, did people understand what product or service you sell? Whether you can, whether they can recall the name of the product or the company. What would be the next action they would want to complete on the page, and what adjectives they would describe the page best. So those are just some examples of what you might want to ask. And then to run a test, there are two options how you can run a test. First one is you can have a moderated 5-second test. Basically, you guys are potential visitors in one room and you show them the landing pages and you see their reaction and you kind of communicate with them. And when this option is not available for you, you can do that remotely. There are a lot of special tools out there on the market that can allow you to test the landing pages. We here personally use 5-second test. So if you will ever need one, you can use that.
And also, we would like to share one case study with one of our clients. And the client came to us with a big redesign project. And during the creation of these new designs, we decided to launch 2 simultaneous 5-second tests for existing website and for the prototypes. And we tried to compare what is the messaging, is there anything that can be improved, is the value proposition clear, are the most the needed benefits showcased. And based on the results, we detected some usability messaging issues, sorry, not usability, but messaging issues, and some of our hypotheses were approved. And the best thing is that this research was done before the designs were launched on the live website. That way we eliminated the possibility that some issues were published, deployed to the existing website. So 2 down, 4 to go.
4 to go. Hope you're not bored yet. So the one we someone called me, decided to join. Hello, me.
Yeah.
So the next test we would like to talk about is remote unmoderated testing. Well, it may sound complicated from the name because it's long and complex, but nothing to be afraid of. Basically, such usability tests are completed alone by the participant, following a list with tasks prepared by the UX researcher and recording. Then participants record a session and provide some commentary about their actions on the website. So you should consider such testing when you, for example, allocate it in different place from your potential customers or your existing customers, so you cannot really get with them in one room physically. You should also consider such testing if you would like to test new functionality or widget on the website. It's quite easy to do. You might have a hypothesis about something not working properly on your website, and then you can just set up the test to prove you whether you're right or whether you're wrong. And you can also you might also have limited budget or time to do like big proper testing. So this one is way cheaper and way faster to complete. To run a successful remote and moderated test, first again, as always, you need to understand why you need to do that. Like, what's your goal here? What are you going to test? You need to have a clear hypothesis you'd like to test. Again, maybe your hypothesis is that users cannot complete certain action. Then you need to prepare an intro for your participants, such a scenario. Why are they here? What is the backstory of their visit to the website? Then you clearly define the tasks, so there would be no room for misinterpretation, which is very important, because you need to define tasks in a way that it will not help them to achieve the goal, yet it will be 100% clear what the goal is. This is very important, because if you kind of will help them, then there's no point in testing. But there's also, as you won't be able to navigate them throughout the test, you need to make sure that they clearly understand what is the goal you want them to complete. So, and afterwards you kind of define your target audience, and you also prepare follow-up questions you'd like to ask. So, next slide. Here's an example of hypothesis we had while working on an optimization program for one of our clients. And basically, we had the hypothesis that homepage does not showcase the wide variety of brands and products that the store actually was offering, that the filters on the category pages had usability issues and people could not really navigate them on mobile devices. We also had the concern that C availability in store was hidden on mobile, like way below default, and many users could not reach the functionality. So we gave participants a scenario. We asked them to imagine that they have decided to buy themselves a new watch, and they visited the store, and we gave them the following tasks to do. The first task was to kind of see the homepage, explore the homepage, and try to understand what's the brand's value proposition. What is it immediately clear what brand sells? Then we asked to find a specific watch for them using filters. This way, we wanted to see whether they will be able to find the attributes and to choose the attributes the way that they could be able to find the watch. We asked them. And then we also asked to see availability in store for that watch on product page. We used a remote tool called Try My UI. For this one, there are a lot of such tools, and they depend for the markets. They differ for the markets because sometimes you have to account for like language specifics and stuff. But you should always consider the fact that if you acquire testers provided by the tool, they participate in such tests a lot. And although their demographics will match with your potential customers, they're kind of above the average because they do such tests on a daily basis. It's basically their job. So if they find difficult to complete a task, this means that it will be even more complicated for your users to do that. So
Peter was asking what was the site we mentioned.
it's Try My UI.
Try My UI.
I think we can type.
.com, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was .com.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and then as an outcome, you receive the recording of their session with their comments, and then you watch the recording, you make the conclusions, you write everything down, and then you present to your client, to your colleagues, to like stakeholders, anyone who's involved in the decision making of optimization process. 3 are down, 50%
yeah.
recovered. So Carolina can take over.
Yeah, I will take over with more visual stuff, visual analysis that is not only very interesting analysis to do, very insightful, but also it looks great in presentations and in some reports. So we will start with moderated eye tracking, which basically is a visual engagement analysis, which is conducted during usability testing. And during this test, we are able, by using eye tracking software, record interactions with the website. We can see the focal points, we can see the gaze paths, and so on. And there are several types of these eye tracking heat maps, not heat maps, but eye tracking evaluation tabs, let's call them like that. And the first one is the heat maps, which show how the site is distributed over different elements, different stimulus. And as usual, heat maps, it works like if the color is blue, the user looked there briefly, the more warmer, redder the element becomes, the more attention user pays to that specific element, and more time is spent on that element. Another type is fixation points, and they show the location, the sequence, and the time spent on specific elements. For example, when user comes to a website, you see that, for example, 1 second is spent on the value proposition or on the main banner, then user goes to the logo, then user goes to CTA, then scrolls down, and you will be able to see how the site is moving over the website. And the final one is opacity map, and this one shows the areas which are under user site. So when user looks at some specific element, the area just enlightens. Let's discuss when the moderated eye tracking is actually useful for you. And this is a great method when you need a high level of interaction between yourself and the participant. For example, it can be on design prototypes that when you can't share with masses the designs, or you have very complex interfaces that need more specific help for users to understand how to work. For example, it also can be some softwares, websites, or any programs that have a strict security concerns. Basically, you cannot access specific areas if you are not if you're not able to do that. And these are some of the cases when moderated testing is very good help for you. Also, with moderated tests and moderated eye tracking tests, you will be able to see the user's body language, hear their responses, how they even move in their chair while you're doing these tests, and you will be able to also to engage with the participant. But remember that any moderated tests should be always reviewed, and also if you have enough resources and time to invest, because they are time consuming. You need to prepare for them. It will take about 30-40 minutes per participant to run a simple test. If you want to run a bigger one and a more complex one, then it will take much more time. So usually it's while you are doing the moderate eye tracking tests, you won't be actually having more than 5-6 participants, because it's not even needed, because if you see that 3 users are having the same issues, there's not likely that the 10 users will change something.
Like the expenses with running tests for like 10 users will be much higher, but more likely you won't find anything new.
Yes.
So most researchers suggest that around five participants.
Yes.
Golden number. But,
yes.
but again, depends on the case and on the website.
Yes, exactly. A successful moderated test will be done in the specific. We'll just discuss some points that will actually help you to run a very good moderated test. It can be applicable not only for eye tracking, for other moderated tests, but we need to firstly define the objective. What is the reason why you're actually doing these tests? What will need to be accomplished based on the data? You cannot just run randomly eye tracking tests and hope that you will find something without any hypothesis, without anything. It's quite useless. Then
you cooperate running eye tracking tests.
Yeah, just to tell everybody, hey, we're a company that runs eye tracking, but no actually normal data is taken out of it. Then you need to always remember to prepare the test object. For example, if you have a prototype or you have some staging website, you need to make sure that the tested area is working properly, that nothing is broken, that users are actually able to see and to accomplish the task you are asking them to do. Another point which actually correlates with the first one is have a clear hypothesis you'd like to test. Again, you cannot reach anything without any specific things you want to accomplish. Prepare a test script, define the tasks as clearly as it's possible. Yes, you will be always with the user on site, but you don't want to help them too much. If the user cannot understand your question completely, then yes, you can elaborate and change up the question, but avoid telling them what they need to do because what's the use of the test then? Then you need to recruit test users. Again, you need to understand what is your demographic. You need to understand which users your product is driven towards, and try to look for users which are like the better, the more are they alike to your specific website's users, the better. Don't recruit your colleagues who don't work with specific projects, for example, because people who work with in IT, for example, in e-commerce, are advanced users. They are not the people who will actually use the website. A very important point is to carry out a dummy run. Here you can take your colleague and go through the questions, test the setup, everything, just to make sure that all the questions are clear, everything is working properly, and that way you will make sure that you are not stressed when you're doing this moderated test, and the participant who comes is not getting stressed because he or she cannot do some specific parts of the test because something is not working. Yes, and also make sure that this participant is comfortable, that you explain everything like it should. You even, with some small gestures, just bring them coffee, make sure that they feel as much as they would be at home alone doing these tests, and nobody's. Yes, yes, just to make sure that they don't stress out and do some stupid mistakes just by accident. Yes, and again, avoid leading questions, and that will that will help users to achieve the goal. Again, I will share a little bit, like a little case study, which we did again with our client, which is a Middle Eastern marketplace, and they were also doing a redesign for their website, and we ran a moderated eye tracking usability test during the prototype design process, and during this process, we actually found not only usability issues all over the website, but some specifically only mobile usability issues detected. For example, users spent around 35 seconds to look where is the city selector for the website. And it's one of a very crucial aspect of this marketplace. And this means that users would get frustrated just by looking for the city selector just to purchase some item. And during these tests, it was detected, and it was timely resolved before, again, the website was launched. So the main takeaway from this is testing prototypes is a very good thing, and the more you do it with different tools, the better it is, and the more you will be able to eliminate any issues like messaging, usability, some technical aspects. So yeah, we highly advise it. So 2 more topics. Now we will go to session recordings, and session recordings are method how to evaluate your website's usability, and by doing this, a strategist, CRO strategist will watch real-time user sessions and will look for patterns in behavior, in user behavior, that will actually show some places or some aspects or some elements that don't work and maybe users are getting frustrated with. Session recordings are a great tool when you want to understand how your visitors interact with the certain elements, functionalities of the website. If maybe you have some concerns about specific devices, for example, in your analytics, you saw that iPhone converts perfectly fine, everything is good, but Android, specifically Samsung Galaxy S9, S8 has a very bad conversion rate. So you go and set up session recordings for the specific devices. You will be able to filter the session recordings afterwards, but yeah, you will be able to review how users are actually performing, what they are doing, what is not working for the specific device. Also, if you need to back up some your improvements or suggestions that you found in some other analysis during, for example, heuristic analysis, or how I suggest with the analytics analysis that you found some issues and you need to back up the statements. Session recording is a great tool. Yes, you can also see the patterns of user behavior, as I said, and but a pro tip from us is just to be patient during the session recordings, because it's a very time-consuming process. It asks from you a lot, not only patience, but also concentration. And session recordings can be sometimes boring, because the website doesn't change, the mouse clicks or the taps are...
There's no sound.
Yeah, there's no sound, and you're just looking in the screen and you think that nothing is changing, but sometimes when you just drift away in your thoughts, you might just miss some very important things or maybe some issues. So a pro tip from us: get a comfortable seat, a lot of coffee, and some very, concentration meds just to make sure that you see everything and make sure that the analysis is done properly. But some tips how we could help you to make sure that replays and analysis is done better and easier is to, we advise to group session recordings by the technology, as I said, by specific devices, by specific browsers, screen resolutions. It will be much easier for you then to, at the same time, carry out some conclusions. For example, you were looking how users perform on Samsung, then you create a spreadsheet where you just find the issues or some conclusions, write down specifically about this device or browser. Also use filtering options to filter out sessions that are no longer than 15 seconds and they have at least one interaction. So basically, if users spend on the website less than 15 seconds and do nothing, that's a bounce. You don't need to just look at the screen.
Waste your time.
Yeah, you're just wasting the time. And yes, as I said, stock up with coffee and be patient. It is worth it. Just if you know that you're looking for something especially on a specific device or browser, you will find something. Just wait for it. How to record your visitor sessions. There are two most popular tools that I think most of you know. This is Lucky Orange and Hotjar. Lucky Orange is a bit more expensive. However, Hotjar is a great tool as well. It has a free membership. It has limited possibilities in the free membership. However, if you're a smaller e-commerce store or you're just starting with session recording analysis, it will be enough for you to get a glimpse at some of the issues and some of the insights. Also, Hotjar actually provides a specific possibility to link Hotjar and Google Analytics, and you will be able to link these two tools together to see the quantitative and the qualitative data about the sessions. But there were some restrictions to this.
Well, basically, from the technical point of view, well, if you have a Hotjar on your website, the tag will fire every time a page loads. However, not always a session will be recorded because there are some limits to the amount of sessions that you need to record in the specific time period. So in Google Analytics, you might see more sessions than you actually will have in Hotjar. So here, you just kind of have to look. But for example, the session you see on the user ID you see on the screen that is highlighted, it had 2 sessions which could be reviewed later on in Hotjar. So this way you can find some interesting sessions that like spend a lot of money on the website, and then you can go to the website and or go to the Hotjar and see what they did in the website, how they shop, what is the user, and all that interesting stuff. So that's a very great workaround how to link the tools. But yeah, just need to know that not all the sessions that will be in Google Analytics will be available in Hotjar, just because of restrictions of how many sessions you can have like per plan.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and now we're finally getting to our final stop. We'll briefly discuss the heat map analysis and the heat map recordings and so. Basically, heat map analysis is a graphical representation of user mouse movements, and through color codes. Oh, somebody's coming just now. Through color-coded system, heat maps, they just highlight the areas where users pay more attention to and display the interactions of the website through, for example, scroll maps. And there are several types of heat maps, and the most popular one that I think everybody thinks of when users when hear about heat maps is the hover maps. So they record the mouse movements and display where people have hovered over. But a very important point is that you need to remember that these these hover maps cannot be completely trusted, because people think that, well, some time ago, people thought that if the user hovers over an element, a user is watching on that element. However, now it's a common practice that users might be looking at one specific element of the website. For example, they might be reading a value proposition, but they are not touching the mouse at all. So mouse is somewhere in the corner on the logo, and you think that the logo is the point where they're looking at, but in reality it's not. Another type is the click maps, and they show how and where users basically clicked on the website. And the blue points are the elements where users clicked less. Warmer tones, red tones are the most clicked elements. And they are great methods that show which elements are actually working or not working, and as well what can be or should be optimized. For example, you have a value proposition banner, which is in reality clickable, but you don't have any CTAs or any indication that it is clickable, and then you will be able to see that users actually don't use this element, and you need to enhance it or change something up. And the third type is the scroll maps, and it shows how far, how low in the website and the page users are actually scrolling. And one very good tip that I could share with you is that you need to look for these sharp drop-offs on the pages when you analyze the scroll maps, because it indicates that users just don't see that there is any continuation of the website under it. So here you see that the users below the average fold almost drop immediately by 50%. So this means that there should be some indication, for example, an arrow or some text that leads users to thinking that there is more information, more descriptions under it. So heat map analysis will help you to understand and how users interact with the website and which elements, as I said, receive the most attention. This is a great tool how to actually enhance or back up your any other found issues or hypotheses. Also, heat maps is a great way how you can make database decisions before you do a website redesign or you want to change the design or do design improvements. And also it will be a great tool before you do any A/B testing. So basically you can find some areas that are questionable and you want to test something, and A/B testing is your next step. So yeah. And successful heat map analysis will be done when you review the performance also of the different device types, because user behavior on a mobile device will be very different from user behavior on desktop, as well as you also need to document and draw conclusions also for specific device type, because you can do A/B testing, for example, for a mobile device only, because you see that, for example, you have issues with the card specifically on the website on mobile devices. And a pro tip is to always pair heat map analysis with other quantitative and qualitative data analysis. For example, you start with Google Analytics or any other analytics tool that you use analysis. You analyze data there, then you go to remote user testing or moderate user testing, and then you also do the heat maps. Another way, you also can put somewhere the some user polls or questionnaires, just to make sure that you cover all the aspects. The more analysis you do, the more research you do, the better results you will get at the end if you want to, for example, completely redesign your website. Yes. So that was it. But we have some bonus tips for you.
So a few best practices that we'd like to mention that you also need to kind of account when you're optimizing your mobile experience. So first, the first one, yeah, I think many of you saw the picture or saw the similar picture, but the idea is that, well, basically, like more than 60%, some research say that more than 60% of users use their phone like in one hand. So you should always think about where you display your main call to actions. For example, main call to action should be easily reachable by a person who's like holding the phone in one hand.
Reached by a thumb.
Reached by thumb easily. For example, for apps such as like Uber or here in Riga we have Bolt and Yandex Taxi. For such apps that people use on the go, it's very important to have those main actions located in the screen
lower part.
Yeah, lower part where it's very easily kind of clicked through. So you don't have to stop and pay a lot of attention and use both hands. It should be very quick, very smooth, and very easy. So you can also test this based on this your websites, how easy and how convenient from like physically it is to navigate the website. The second one is it looks quite obvious, but we see that so many websites don't do that. You need to optimize your keyboard based on the form field type. So it will help you speed up the process. It will increase the chances that people will complete the form and like reach the goal of the page and the goal of the form. If you have a possibility, always optimize the keyboard on mobile devices, because again, the screen is small and we need to make sure that the flow is as easy as possible. So if you're asking to provide a number value, then the keyboard should open up numbers.
Yep.
If that's an email you're asking for, then there's keyboards optimized for emails that have like that X symbol and .com. So you don't, so you don't have to kind of go to the symbols and search. This looks very easy, and this sounds like obvious, but we see that many websites don't really do that.
Yeah.
Then there's a big tendency in the latest font models, they become like buttonless, so you have only screen. And we had cases when testing our clients' websites when on buttonless font, like sticky elements were not visible because the changes of the viewport of the browser were caused by that. So this is also something to look out for. So you should test on older fonts and on newer fonts your website, because sometimes like Google Analytics data won't show you that on the newer phones, people like sticky button doesn't work as expected, because in many cases we think that the newer technology people are using, the easier it's going to be. Well, not always it is the case. You should always test for older and newer technology.
Yeah, because for example, I don't know, the new Samsung Fold phone, we don't know how the website is actually shown there, because we don't, when the website was actually created, was developed, maybe this resolution was not thought about at that moment. So basically the website can look horrible like on 10-year-old phone, for example.
But always kind of account for your resources, like how much time do you have, how much money can you spend in terms of like people resource and people hours, because sometimes it doesn't make sense to test your website on some devices that like no 3 people use. Like you have 3 sessions per year on those devices, that won't be like cost efficient. But you still have to kind of take the most popular newer model, and then you have to take the most popular like older model.
Yeah, and also always try to look in your analytics tool for in the device type. Maybe some devices are having a very huge bounce rate, or the conversions are significantly lower. So this is a good indicator that you need to check if everything is okay in that specific device. Yeah.
This is our last slide, which is basically a very famous picture, but we love it with our hearts very deeply. That sometimes something may seem like very beautiful, and like you think, yes, that's a perfect UX, that's such a beautiful design, but then kind of your users don't think so. So you should always evaluate the system from the user's perspective. You should always put yourself in your user's shoes and try to kind of go through the experience that they will have, not that you find, because initially when we create something, we kind of think, oh, that's easy, I came up with that. That's easy for everybody to understand. Or it's not.
Yes, and especially remember that you are an advanced user, you are working with website optimization on daily basis, or if you are, for example, e-commerce store owner, you know your product. So something that seems very obvious for you might seem very not understand. Your users won't understand it at all. So yes, as Olga said, always try to look at your website and the product from a very different perspective than yours.
So that is it. If you have any questions, you can always like get us, send us an email, like message on LinkedIn. You can go to Scandiweb website, you can complete the form there, and like all the questions will be answered.
Yes, also we will share the presentation after the webinar, with you. So if you missed something, if you sorry, something. Yeah, if you miss something, if you want to understand something more in depth, the presentation will be available. Another thing is that we are planning to do similar webinars every once, maybe
2 months.
Yeah,
maybe.
once a month, once 2 months. So if you have any specific wishes that you want us to cover, for example, it's not CRO, it can be not CRO related because our company is quite huge and we can share insights on very different various topics. So send us your wishes and we will evaluate them and share our knowledge with you as much as we can. So yes, it was very nice seeing you all. Do you have any questions? We have maybe some couple minutes of time to answer some of them.
But if there's going to be any questions afterwards, feel free just to write them in an email.
Yes, yes. Write them directly to us or to marketing at Scandiweb. It will answer them as soon as we possible. Thank you, Ilva.
Thank you for a nice feedback. Thank you.
Yes. If you have any feedback, also please share. We would like to learn.
Good or bad, we will.
Yes.
We will embrace ourselves.
Yeah. So as I see, nobody has any questions. So again, thank you
for your time, for joining.
Yes.
For finding this interesting.
Yeah, and we'll hope that you gain some knowledge and will help you in your day-to-day work life, professional life, everyday life.
We also have a blog where we post some stuff regularly about user experience optimization. We share case studies, frameworks, like all the fun stuff. So you can also check that out if you're into the topic, like if you would like to read a bit more about that. Also, not obligatory, but you're very welcome to do that.
Yes, yeah. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Goodbye.